Should you're able to get both of you in there, that way the grade looks good.
Right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get it started. Thank you for obviously taking the time out to meet us. It's greatly appreciated.
Yes.
So we're doing an assignment on rent control. That's something that we all kind of chose that was an interest of ours. I came from San Francisco, where rent control is very strong, and I was surprised that San Diego didn't have it. And then upon doing some research, I learned that there was the proposition recently for the lots in Oceanside to potentially remove rent control. And we know that you had some opinions on that and would like to just kind of further dig into there. So I guess the initial question would be, have you personally been affected either negatively or positively by rent control?
First off, do you want to find out who I am?
Oh, yes.
If you could introduce
I apologize.
yourself, what you do.
I'm Mayor Jim Wood from the city of Oceanside, California.
Excellent.
And the question again?
Have you been personally affected either negatively or positively by rent control?
Yes, negative. In a way, if you want me to explain each one of these. This issue came up several years ago. It really fazed me by my mother. My mother was a 90-year-old lady who lived in a park and had friends in a mobile home park. And she moved out, but anyhow, it was really an issue about timing. I think right then the economy was on a downswing, and everybody was in a dilemma over the economy. And I thought at the time this was brought up by the park owners and some of our council members, this was inappropriate. These are seniors, they're veterans and handicapped people. And we've had our rent control for a long time. It had been approved by the Supreme Court of California. So we were surprised when they brought it up that it was for the park owners trying to get more money. We thought the big issue at the time was, hey, you're making a lease guaranteed 14% interest on your money and even higher, up to 41%. So it was why and at this timing. So it really affected a lot of people. We have 19 mobile home parks in Oceanside, and they were all affected. Now this rent control issue had been through all the courts and protected, and it was good. All of a sudden they were going to take it on one about the rent control, and they later subsequently tried to do it as a ballot initiative for signatures. And they did go that far, and we handed it back to them along with other things. They're rare ends. But anyways, I think you find out on this issue, all the seniors, they rule the ballot box anyhow. But they really got organized, got signatures, got 16,000 plus signatures in about 3 weeks, enough to put that on the ballot initiative. They brought it to our city council and said, don't do it. We got so many signatures. The council majority at the time said, we're going to go forward. They did, and they lost. So it did faze me from a personal point, and as a mayor, it certainly did faze me. It seemed like they were picking on seniors, veterans, and handicapped.
Right. Okay. And in your opinion, what are the benefits and consequences of rent control?
Well, certainly the benefits are helping them keep their rent rates down for all the people. It's also one of the issues in Oceanside. We get hit with all the time for affordable housing for everybody, but mainly seniors. So it's really our form of senior housing in this area. So that's the benefit. The negative is not so much for us, but the park owners. What's really funny about that is over time, the parks were all put here by families. They lived in the parks. Subsequently, they've all seemed to pass away and their kids took it over. And they're the ones who seem to be money hungry about it. And it's all about the old dollar bill. And they want to rent control to either get the rates from $400 to about $1,200 a month, and or get all the units moved out and rebuild with condos or houses.
Right. Okay.
Questions? The rest.
Does anybody else want to jump in?
Is there a reason that rent control doesn't exist in other types of rental units, like apartments, anything like that?
Well, it's an issue. Most of the seniors, veterans, as I said, and handicapped, live there a long period of time in the mobile home parks. They've been there for years and probably don't plan on leaving. Some of the areas around here, this is a military town, you can believe that, and they don't stay long. They're kind of rotation in and out, so it's not really smart to try to get rent control on apartments. It just hasn't been a big push issue on that. The Camp Helen over the years have done a lot more towards the housing on base at better rates.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The other thing is we're a beach community also,
Right.
and some of the rates are real high once you get near the water.
Yeah. I believe it. So I think we already touched on this, but for what reasons did you oppose Prop E or oppose rent decontrol in general?
Well, I think it was what I said. It's
Yeah.
really phasing a large group of people
Mm-hmm.
that probably mostly couldn't afford it or couldn't afford to take on the battle, and the city had to do it from it. We really feel like we were protected under the law and did the right thing, but the people didn't have the money to fight it. And like I say, the seniors, the retired military, when I say retired military, it doesn't have to be the wife or spouse, it could be either side or their partners. And we had a lot of people coming here that were 80, 90 years old or who were the survivors, the wives or whatever. They couldn't afford it, and the handicap also. So it was a kind of a emotional issue I thought was wrong, just wrong,
Right.
period. So we took it on as a city and fought it. And we at the time fought it from the minority. There were 3-2, 3 of the council members in favor, and there's 2 of us. The 2 of us, myself and Esther Sanchez, fought it and got involved with the seniors in the community. Funny thing about it, it's not just the parks. The other senior communities weren't involved in rent control, really supported the seniors, saying, well, I understand their plight, and they jumped in and they certainly helped at the ballot. They got really a lot of support.
Nice. Some say that one reason to vote for Prop E would that be it's a constitutional right for property owners to do, with their land what they please. How would you respond to that?
Well, that was a big issue, and it certainly was. Hey, the council people, the majority, said the same thing. It seemed to be a ploy all the way around. Property rights. Well, obviously there's a few rules and regulations from the federal, state, local government that imposes on some of these rights. And they're long-standing, and this issue came up, and we said, yes, but you're compensated. Our rules set it up for you. They make, like I say, 14 to 41% interest on their money investments. So like at the time, I probably made a 1.75% on my money investments. They were getting a lot more than any of us, and they shouldn't have complained.
Yeah.
And that was a big issue that we came back after them on.
Okay. Well, that's good.
What has your response been since the prop did not pass?
Well, I think that it's going to continue to be an issue by then. We see statewide, a lot of stuff goes to the legislature. These people have the money, the park owners. They try to get answers to this at the legislative level, and they haven't been able to do it. But back down here, in our city, it appears that they picked our city, all the state, all the money comes in, investments. They send it down here to fight this issue. They wanted a no on the issue. We wanted a yes on Prop E. And there's a lot of money coming in from the outside. Good example, they've helped spend us probably 10 to 1 on the issue, but they don't vote here. That's their big issue. They might have a good thing. They put a lot of advertisement out and money to feed us, but the people in town, not just the mobile home park people, the other seniors didn't agree. Military, veterans, etc. And they just, no way. They really shut it down at the election level. It's still around. It's not going away. We also noticed that the large amount of money is giving to the candidates, the voting majority. They took a lot of money from the park owners and the money that came in from outside sources. They have lawyers, a lot of lawyers, and are willing to fight it. That's the big issue with it. At some time, they're looking to change the voting majority of, let's say, our council, and we might change it by regulation, not keeping it anymore. That's the big fear we have. We beat them at the polls, but they might do it the long way, is having a supermajority, and the council will change it and go the other direction.
And what do you think it would look like if the prop had passed?
For
What do you
that,
think the result
I
would
think
have been?
you'd see a lot of the seniors don't have any way to pay the rents. They were guesstimating that the rent for most people go from like $400 to like $1,200 to $1,500 a month. Most of them on a fixed income couldn't afford it. What we see is they're trying to do is intimidate the residents over certain issues, hiring management teams that go after the citizen for every petty little thing. They get him to finally say, I give up, I'm going to sell my mobile home, motor home, to the park owners. They just say, I've had enough. But remember, for most of these seniors, that unit itself is their future, the income. They usually sell it to go to assisted living and have the money to go. They're forcing them out and saying, taking 10 cents on the dollar for the unit. They're valuable, but they're paying a little less. Slowly and surely, you're seeing that having the parks take over. They own a lot of the units. Once they get to a certain figure, they don't have to have rent control anymore. That's the way they did in Eskimo and a few other places. So it's going to be a factor we have to keep our eye on, but they're still looking at it behind. They've got the money and they want to do it again. Right now in Oceanside, I don't think they have the will to make another battle like last time, and it's going to stay here for a while. And the big answer is they're making a lot of money on what they have anyhow.
Are there, what federal laws exist to protect the tenants?
I'm sorry?
What federal laws are?
Well, the law in the state and federal law, generally speaking, they have to, if they want to kick somebody out, they have to provide them another location. In other words, the park owners don't want to pay for everybody moving to go to another location. Well, the reason being is not very many mobile home parks have been built since the 60s and 70s. So there's no really place you can take them, one. Number two, the units aren't really portable. Can't move them around. So there's laws out there say, hey, if you're going to move them, you're going to have to subsequently find them a spot to move to. They can't afford to do that. They don't want to invest money in that.
Okay. And one question I had, it's actually not on this, but I'm just curious, in your opinion, coming from San Francisco, it's a very interesting juxtaposition of rent control and a lot of tenant rights, but it's also one of the highest rented cities with the highest rent prices. And there's a lot of people going over and flipping houses and companies coming in and buying established housing and trying to evict tenants so they can make new condos and everything. Sort of a similar process to what was happening with these lots. How do those exist at the same time, like tenant rights, but the city is still able to have such a astronomical increase?
I don't know how to answer that question by reason. It's a tough question. We have rent control here on the mobile home parks. Could we have it in the rest of the city? Probably yes, if you get a council and changing the policies here in town. It takes a lot of money and time to change some of the regulations. So it would be a cost to the city or the tenants who want to do that. I think it's fantastic. You know, they look at San Francisco and other places, New York, rent controls there, but a lot of conflicts. Now, the big difference is the mobile home parks own their units. It's land underneath, not like a tenant up in San Francisco. I think the big issue is you're looking at something, they own land, there's parking at a space rent to have their property on it. Big difference, big difference. So I don't know if we'd want to go all the way and rent control to to having apartments, condos, whatever, under rent control because the owner owns everything.
Right. Okay.
That's cool.
Is there any other follow-up questions from you guys?
I can't think of any.
I think one of the best things in this thing is we really protect a lot of seniors, a lot of veterans and their families, and the handicapped. For rent control in the state of California, it hits us all the time about affordable housing, rent control, not so much rent control, but affordable housing. And they set certain guidelines of how many we're supposed to have. We never meet those goals. They're too big and too fancy. Right now, after the economy switch, I see the economy kind of slowly coming up for our city. The first thing we see all the developers coming in saying, we want to build houses and houses and houses. Well, that doesn't really address the ocean side, saying houses as a whole don't pay for themselves for what the services they get from the city. So that's another big issue. And the issue of building houses in the area have changed a lot. Footprints are a lot smaller. You don't see the tall, you see smaller places, etc., or high rises. It's an issue coming up from the future, and a lot of the cities like this have to adjust certain things. You put a high rise, you block the views. The other thing, the fire departments, they don't have necessarily equipment to fight high-rise buildings. A lot of factors come into that. Well, land value and land swapping. In other words, we have something designated as a commercial property. Everybody wants to switch it, the developer will switch to residential. We don't want to do that. Money is commercial for cities like this. So a lot of issues have to be thought about, and certainly we have a lot of input from both sides, and we'll have to decide. Recently we had a council's change. We're the voting majority. Previously for rent control, we're the other way around.
Yeah.
So because of rent control, in my opinion, some of those people that were here got voted out of office.
Oh, wow.
Remember, seniors rule the ballot box.
Yeah.
Very true.
Do you think if the whole city, if in the future rent control was imposed on this whole city, how do you think it would affect like the Section 8 housing or other affordable housing?
Yeah. Section 8 and affordable housing, I have 8,000 people on that list. And I don't see any future ways that we ever can maintain 8,000 people in affordable housings in the way that they want to. I think we would have a big battle on our hand for the developers trying to not build affordable housing and housing to address the Section 8 people. I don't see that happening. That's a different story now. It's like an Oceanside. If I want to build affordable housing in this area, apartments, we buy apartment complexes and flip them over to do low income. And the city does that. The problem is you don't see any difficulty in going affordable housing for seniors. When you go Section 8, different story. You know, kids and whatever. And so it's going to be a battle. I understand the dilemma with that many people on our waiting list, but when you talk Section 8 families, the surrounding neighborhoods protested. They never complained about Section seniors and affordable housing. Good neighbors.
Right.
Interesting.
So if I understand that what you're saying in terms of rent control going into apartments and condos, that is a different issue because it's not just a lot of land, essentially a parking space. It's a whole other territory. What would the potential negative aspects of rent control going into condos and houses potentially be?
Well, certainly the owners wouldn't want it. The developers wouldn't want it. They want to have market value, and they can sell that pretty easily. It's their property. The thing you brought up, their right to do what they want with their property. They own everything. A little better push on their end, and probably get a lot of support from people on that issue. Now, rent control in the whole city, as I said earlier, kind of a different story, real hard. a beach community. They're valuable pieces of property.
Yeah.
Even they're 1940 years old in the
Yeah.
40s. A lot of my town was built in the 1940s. They get big rent.
Mhm.
Now, that's Oceanside. We're next to a military base, and we expect a lot of housing to be rentals. The homes or the condos or apartments or the mobile home parks for people. But look at the city south of us. Carlsbad, Del Mar, big expensive homes, a lot of property. And I don't want to be set in a situation where we have only the rent control for the whole city, and the cities south of us, all around of us, don't have it.
Mm.
You get like an influx of people coming.
Well, you can see from the freeway, everybody wants to move here.
Yeah.
Our freeways are parking lots,
Mm.
and it used to be just on the weekdays going to and from work. Now it's
Right.
Saturday and
Mhm.
Sunday also,
Right.
and we have to address that issue. It's like you can't say no more.
Yeah.
We don't have any more houses,
True.
and et cetera, but the people keep coming. The
Very true.
quality of life and the weather are certainly a big factor.
Mhm.
And we have other issues that are more important right now, and that's going to be transportation.
Mhm.
And they have trains. They want to have mass transit as the number one issue in a
Oh,
county.
okay.
However, we can't do any mass transit until we double track. We only have
Right.
one track. It's already been double tracked on Oceanside. The
Oh.
rest of them,
Mm.
and none of the trestles and bridges across rivers are double tracked. They were
Mm.
built in 1903 and 1904.
Mhm.
All need to be replaced. A lot of money, number one, to replace them.
Right.
And we get a lot of conflict for environmentalists about disturbing the habitat through a river, so they fight those issues.
Yeah.
So, and then every rail train is through all the beach cities. The
Mhm.
most valuable land in Southern California is where the train tracks run through.
Right.
Mm.
So that's a big issue. And then other ones are in this area, because I sit on Sandag also. 15 was a priority to finish off, and 5 is next.
Mhm.
We see.
Okay.
Anyhow, that's trying to. I get 600,000 cars a day drive by Oceanside, people going to and from work.
Wow.
And I don't know how they could make mass transit and pull all those cars in train stations, because then
Mhm.
you're going to have parking for thousands of cars in the beach city.
Yeah,
We
very
already have a
true.
problem.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Can't win. Kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
Right.
Always.
Anything else?
I guess one final question for me is, do you feel like there's a difference in opinion between Oceanside and San Diego in terms of rent control? Like, since San Diego is more of the main hub, but essentially it's kind of a larger Oceanside in terms of military and a lot of
Everything we got,
influx.
but exceptly a lot larger.
Right.
Don't know how to answer that. They've got their own troubles. Seems like they're more concerned about getting the Charger Stadium built and staying there.
Right.
Seems to be their priority.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Thank
That's-
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you for the educated